Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, first published in 1892, emerges from a historical context marked by the rigid constraints of 19th-century gender roles and the burgeoning feminist movement. Gilman, born in 1860, was an ardent advocate for women's rights, and her personal experiences with postpartum depression and the rest cure prescribed by Dr. Silas Weir Mitchell profoundly influenced her writing. This treatment, which mandated complete rest and isolation for women suffering from what was then termed nervous disorders, serves as the backdrop for the protagonist's descent into madness. Gilman's work is not merely a reflection of her time. It is a critique of the medical and social attitudes that rendered women powerless, illuminating the intersection of gender, mental health, and societal expectations. The Yellow Wallpaper occupies a unique space within the genre of Gothic literature, blending psychological horror with feminist commentary. The narrative unfolds through the first-person perspective of an unnamed female narrator whose mental state deteriorates as she becomes increasingly obsessed with the wallpaper of her confinement. This obsession serves as a metaphor for the oppressive structures imposed upon women, and the story's claustrophobic setting amplifies the sense of entrapment. Gilman's use of the Gothic tradition, characterized by themes of madness, confinement, and the supernatural, allows her to explore the psychological ramifications of societal oppression. The wallpaper itself becomes a symbol of the narrator's struggle against the constraints of her domestic life, embodying the larger thematic concerns of autonomy and identity that resonate throughout the text. The initial narrative setup introduces readers to the protagonist's summer retreat, a colonial mansion that is both beautiful and forbidding. The opening lines establish a tone of ambivalence toward the setting, as the narrator describes the house as haunted, yet filled with potential for romantic exploration. This duality reflects her internal conflict, as she grapples with the expectations placed upon her by her husband, John. The juxtaposition of the picturesque garden and the oppressive nursery room, where the narrator is confined, sets the stage for her psychological unraveling. The themes of isolation and the struggle for self-expression emerge early in the text, as the narrator reveals her desire for congenial work and stimulation, elements that are systematically denied to her under the guise of care. Gilman's narrative is significant not only for its exploration of mental illness, but also for its critique of the patriarchal structures that govern women's lives. The narrator's husband, John, embodies the archetype of the rational, authoritative male figure who dismisses her feelings and experiences. His insistence on controlling her environment and prescribing her treatment highlights the broader societal tendency to silence women's voices and experiences. The narrator's gradual descent into madness serves as a powerful indictment of these oppressive dynamics, suggesting that the very systems designed to protect women can also lead to their destruction. The work's significance extends beyond its historical context, as it continues to resonate with contemporary readers who grapple with issues of mental health, autonomy, and the quest for identity within restrictive societal frameworks. For modern readers, The Yellow Wallpaper remains a vital text that speaks to the ongoing struggles for women's rights and mental health awareness. The narrator's plight echoes the experiences of many individuals who find themselves marginalized within their own lives, whether due to gender, mental illness, or societal expectations. The story's exploration of the intersection between mental health and gender roles invites readers to reflect on the ways in which societal norms can contribute to psychological distress. Furthermore, the narrative's emphasis on self-expression and the importance of reclaiming one's voice resonates with contemporary movements advocating for mental health awareness and gender equality. In a world where discussions of mental health are increasingly prominent, Gilman's work serves as a poignant reminder of the historical roots of these issues. The narrator's struggle against the constraints of her environment and her eventual rebellion against the oppressive forces in her life invite readers to consider the importance of autonomy and self-advocacy. The Yellow Wallpaper thus transcends its historical context, becoming a timeless exploration of the complexities of identity, mental health, and the enduring impact of societal expectations on individual lives. As we continue to confront the legacies of patriarchy and the stigmatization of mental illness, Gilman's narrative remains a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the necessity of reclaiming one's narrative in the face of oppression. The relationship between the narrator and her husband, John, serves as a central axis around which the narrative of the Yellow Wallpaper revolves. John's paternalistic demeanor and his unwavering belief in his authority create a dynamic that is both suffocating and revealing. The narrator's internal struggle manifests through her observations of the wallpaper, which becomes a symbol of her confinement and the societal constraints imposed on her. As she describes her surroundings, she oscillates between affection for the room and a growing obsession with the wallpaper, which she initially finds airy and comfortable, but later comes to see as horrid. This duality underscores her mental deterioration, heightened by John's dismissive attitude toward her feelings and desires. Gilman intricately develops the rising action through the narrator's increasing isolation. The narrator's longing for companionship is palpable when she reflects on her desire for a visit from cousin Henry and Julia. John's refusal to allow such visits, which he deems stimulating, further isolates her, illustrating the extent of his control over her life. The narrator's frustration is compounded by her inability to express her needs and desires, which she feels are trivialized by John's insistence on her fragility. This dynamic is poignantly captured in her admission that she has become dreadfully fretful and querulous, suggesting that her emotional state is a product of both her confinement and the lack of autonomy in her relationship. The rising tension in the narrative is mirrored by the narrator's deteriorating mental state, which is closely tied to her fixation on the wallpaper. The description of the wallpaper evolves from a mere annoyance to an embodiment of her entrapment. The vicious influence she perceives in the wallpaper reflects her growing awareness of her own oppression. As she observes the recurrent spot where the pattern lolls like a broken neck, it becomes evident that her perception of the wallpaper is not just aesthetic but deeply psychological. The eyes she sees in the wallpaper, which seem to watch her, symbolize the societal gaze that scrutinizes and judges her every thought and action. The narrator's relationship with her sister-in-law, Jenny, adds another layer to the exploration of female relationships within the context of patriarchy. While Jenny is portrayed as a caring figure, her role as a housekeeper and her alignment with John's views further emphasize the limited options available to women. The narrator's desire to write, a form of self-expression and autonomy, is stifled by both John and Jenny, who perceive it as a threat to her health. Jenny's enthusiasm for domesticity contrasts sharply with the narrator's yearning for intellectual freedom, highlighting the generational and ideological divides among women in this era. As the narrative progresses, the wallpaper becomes a canvas onto which the narrator projects her innermost thoughts and feelings. Her meticulous examination of the wallpaper's patterns reveals her psychological unraveling. The strange, provoking, formless sort of figure she perceives lurking behind the wallpaper's design signifies her own struggle for identity and agency. The more she fixates on the wallpaper, the more she identifies with the figure she believes is trapped within it, mirroring her own sense of entrapment within her marriage and societal expectations. This identification culminates in a moment of profound clarity when she declares, "I must say what I feel and think in some way. It is such a relief." This statement marks a critical turning point, as it signifies her burgeoning desire to reclaim her voice, even as she becomes increasingly aware of the futility of her situation. The climactic tension in the narrative escalates as the narrator's obsession with the wallpaper deepens. Her descriptions of the wallpaper's grotesque patterns and the figure she believes is creeping behind it reflect her descent into madness, but they also serve as a powerful metaphor for the struggles faced by women who are denied autonomy. The wallpaper, with its bloated curves and flourishes, mirrors the constraints and expectations that have been imposed upon her, and her eventual identification with the figure within it symbolizes her desperate bid for freedom. In the final moments of the story, As the narrator tears down the wallpaper in a frenzied attempt to liberate herself, she embodies the struggle against the oppressive forces that have sought to define her existence. The act of peeling away the wallpaper becomes a cathartic release, allowing her to reclaim her agency, albeit in a tragic and unsettling manner. Her declaration, "I've finally got out," is both a moment of triumph and a reflection of her complete psychological break. In this way, Gilman masterfully intertwines the themes of mental illness, gender roles, and the quest for identity, creating a haunting portrait of a woman trapped within the confines of her own life. In the resolution of The Yellow Wallpaper, the narrator's complete descent into madness culminates in her tearing down the wallpaper, symbolizing her desperate attempt to reclaim her identity. The line, "I've finally got out," signifies her liberation from societal constraints, albeit through a tragic lens. This act serves as both a rejection of her prescribed role and an embrace of her fractured self, highlighting the destructive impact of enforced domesticity. The character of John, representing patriarchal authority, ultimately fails to comprehend the depth of his wife's suffering, embodying the oppressive gender roles of the time. His dismissive attitude towards her mental health illustrates the broader societal neglect of women's autonomy, reinforcing Gilman's critique of 19th century gender dynamics. Thematically, the story synthesizes the struggles of mental illness and the quest for self-identity against the backdrop of societal expectations. Gilman's work is significant for its early exploration of women's mental health, making it a precursor to feminist literature. Its strengths lie in its rich symbolism and emotional intensity, while some may argue its narrative can feel constrained by period-specific language. The Yellow Wallpaper endures as a powerful commentary on the intersection of gender and mental health, resonating with contemporary discussions about women's rights and mental illness. Its haunting portrayal of a woman's struggle for autonomy continues to inspire and provoke critical dialogue, solidifying its place in literary canon.